Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. And I am so excited because not only do I get to do the Daily Huddle with all of you, I get to actually hang out with one of my closest friends on the planet. He and I actually get together and we play together. We have the best time. We celebrated New Year's together. So, Crum III has become a dear friend of mine over the years. And he has a podcast that's out there called Conscious Millionaire, where it has 12 million downloads. I'm proud to say that I was one of the first individuals to
No,
be
no, no,
on.
Michelle, you were the first. You
I
were the
was
first.
the first. I was the
Yes.
first.
And you are the woman who has been on my show more than anybody representing women entrepreneurs and women empowerment because I love you.
I love you too. Well, it sounds like too, being the competitive self that I am in a fun, loving spirit, but it sounds like too is that I've had the most downloads that you've
That
had
would
out of
that
your.
would that's right, that would.
So
And
female or not, it's
right.
like, all right, let's rock this thing.
I
Well,
know, 2000 episodes later and you're the star of my show.
I love it. Well, it seems only appropriate that you are the star of my show. We had our podcast and we did our filming last week. So we're getting stuff into the tank. And I wanted you to come on to this show that's live streamed out because I am so in love with all the things that you're doing. So we're gonna get right into it. But first, I want to share with the group a couple announcements. One of which is I want to give a shout out to my team over at the Real Share and doing the Daily Huddle. We have just performed miracles this past week. We released our website and JV Crum, I'm so excited to be able to have you as part of my advisory team. He's been part of my wellness team family. So thank you. And I sent it out. So please take a look at it. It literally just went live today. We spent the entire weekend and the last few months creating this. And lo and behold, we didn't know that we were going to be creating a platform that would truly crowdsource miracles, not only with my healing and the process that I've gone through, but also finding out what you need and what are things that you can share to help others in this time of really excitement. And there's a piece that I would love to bring back. But first, I'd like to go ahead and just jump right into it. And again, say thank you, JV, because our friends show up for each other. He had heard me say that I wanted to go ahead and put together a podcast and worked with me as I went through my healing journey. And and was just patient with me. I mean, I really want to recommend the work that you do for so many that help them be able to create a space to get their message out and to create that true essence of what it is that they want to share. And I learned this back when I had 18,000 people sign up to be a speaker at the California Women's Conference. We've got Rose Tafoya who's on here, Donna Lee's joining us, and we've got others who have been working with me for the last really decade on putting together thought leaders like yourself, JV, and bringing us together so that we can share what's possible, share what's working, share the experiences that we're having so that we all can have this amazing life and experience. So with that, I first want to go ahead and give a shout out to Donna Lee, Rose Tafoya, Connor, who is our amazing producer of the show. So thank you so much. Please send out your questions as I go through and do our podcast with JV and really just talk about what's happening, what's going on. He's who I go to for advice. We constantly are checking in on one another, not just as business partners and creating podcasts, but also as just friends. And so I really appreciate you, JV. And it's been nice because we've had many laughs together, we've cried together. And I love you. I absolutely love you. So let's talk about what is going on for you right now, because I know I'm in a new spot. You've moved recently.
Yeah, we don't have I don't have the lighting done yet. So this is really interesting. I follow my intuition, and my intuition last week was just so strong. Folks, I live in Denver, so depending on where you live, that's a big or a small place, but it's 4 million people, however large you think that is. And all week, because I've been following the coronavirus and I do markets, so I understand where we're headed financially, which is pretty much a catastrophe. And but in terms of the coronavirus, I felt increasingly last week unsafe being in a mecca where I was like so many people around me when you would go out, or even, the place I was at, I had hallways, elevators. I said, this isn't safe.
Well, let's talk about that for a second too, because that's the biggest thing when you do get a diagnosis, when you do hear of a pandemic, like we're
Right.
going through as one family, as an entire planet. There's that feeling of obviously being unsafe and flight and fright, and we don't always make the right decisions. We don't always
Yeah, I think you
lead
have to
level head.
you have to listen to yourself. In my case, because I had a heart attack a couple of years ago, diabetes, I said, you have got to take exceptionally good care of yourself. And every week I'm in consultation with my doctor, and the intuition was, you have to move, you have to move, you have to move. So fortunately, I was in the position. I scoured Airbnb, and I found a full house out kind of in the middle of nowhere, as I call it. I'm about when we're finished. I'm going to there's a 7 mile path, so I'm going to go and take a walk in nature. And I said, you need to go into self isolation for 3 to 4 months. So I followed that intuition, and I feel like I made the right decision, because I said, scoured
There's
Airbnb,
multiple
and I
pieces to
found
this.
this. And it isn't just I want to be alive; it's that I want to make sure that I don't become a carrier and unwittingly infect other people. And then I'm very clear with Conscious Millionaire and my nonprofit Conscious World that I'm supposed to be on this planet, that I'm here with a mission, that I'm here with a higher purpose. And that's, my show, Conscious Millionaire. That's what I do. But with that, I feel a profound sense of personal responsibility. The fact that I believe that I'm on the earth at the exact moment I'm supposed to be here, if I'm going to do Facebook Lives, if I'm going to do videos, if I'm going to do 6 days a week on my podcast, I have to take care of myself so that I'm able to, in a way, minister to other people. Otherwise, I can't do that. I can't help my clients, shift their businesses right now so that they're ready for this next economy that we're in. So just a realization that I have to take care of myself so that I can support others, and doing what I felt that I should do, which was to move out of the city, be more in the country, be where I'm closer, where I can go out in the mountains much more easily, and that my isolation becomes a spiritual journey. That's what I realized. Is it's like, and it's interesting, several people picked up on it. It's like I'm at Walden Pond, except that I'm in the mountains instead. But I feel like I'm on a very spiritually, and not just spiritual journey, but a guided journey, that I'm supposed to be at this particular point on the map, on the planet, so that I can meditate, so that I can have the evenings to take care of myself, to to contemplate and listen to what are things that I can do to help other people at this moment in time.
Well, and so two things come up. One is, and you and I mean, just as recent as 2 nights ago, I had you on speaker and you were talking to my husband and I, and we seem
Right.
to do this, over the last few years. Everything from getting a phone call from you from the hospital to, myself going in. It's like what we've been doing is really, really relying on our friendship, and also creating that safe space so that way when we are in that flight and fright mentality, when we are in that mindset of fear, how can we calm down, how can we really go inward, so that that can be a reflection of our outer,
Right.
and really feel at peace with one another.
Well, and I want to say that some of the phrasing that has gotten created, I think that it's actually emotionally damaging to use some of this phrasing. It's like social isolation, social distancing. It doesn't have anything to do with social, it has to do with physical. So,
Right. That's
right.
a
I mean,
beautiful comment.
here we are connected. It's not like we're any
Yes.
less socially connected than we ever have been. You know, I was just on a phone call with a friend of mine in California for about a half hour that we hadn't talked in about a year. And I reached out, you know, to him and called him earlier today. And I said, you know, I just was thinking about you yesterday. I want to be sure that you're okay. And you know, I meet with my clients by Zoom. I do my podcast interviews by Zoom. I have a lot of meetings scheduled this week. I don't feel socially isolated. I simply chose to physically isolate myself for safety purposes, but that doesn't mean I'm socially isolated at all. I'm talking to family actually more than we normally talk. We're talking every couple of days. You know, I've talked to my cousin 3 days in a row.
Isn't
You know,
that so fascinating? And if you think about even the two of us, I mean, let's go back to when we met. I met you at the California Women's Conference.
at your yes, that's right. The night before it started, such a miraculous
I,
where like if you looked at it on paper, we shouldn't have met. And that I didn't even know you, and I was one of 12 people who had dinner with you the night before. But I was supposed to meet you, and you gave me the first copy of your book, and I signed a copy of my book to you,
so look at
right?
this. Look at this. I actually, we were going through one of the things that we've done during this week is clean out the garage. And
Yep,
so I was going through and I grabbed this, Women Change the World. So you got my very first signed copy
I
and I
did.
got your
That's
book
what
that night.
that's right. And you have 35 amazing women in your book. But it was such an honor. So, you know, one of the things to think about in this time that we're going through is the power of synchronicity. I've been doing webinars, and I really want to invite everybody here, and we can give them the web address for you to be on the webinar. We're doing the next one Wednesday, but at the beginning of it, it's for entrepreneurs and really wanting to support entrepreneurs right now, because I know, and I go, there are really three ways to respond to this event, which is really a two-part event. There's a health part and there's an economic part, and then that kind of blends together to create a third part. So the first part, I go, you could respond by going to fear and panic. And if you go to fear and panic, the most probable, if you're going to look like these are scenarios, you get to choose. The most probable outcome is that you are going to implode. And if you own a business, maybe go out of business because you're in fear and panic. You're
Yeah.
contracting. The second one, which is where I think a lot of people are aiming at the moment, is to survive. I was just on a call yesterday, with someone who 2 weeks ago was thriving with a multi-million-dollar business. And they're going, oh, I just got to survive. And I said, can I give you some coaching,
Yeah.
around that? So here's what happens if you focus on surviving. First of all, you miss all your best opportunities in 2020. You don't show up at your best in 2020. You're not going to innovate. You're not going to be agile. You're going to be average. Maybe you do what you did in 2019, but you're going to miss all the possibilities and opportunities that are there for you because you're in a defensive mode. The first two options are all defensive. Surviving is not, you're not going out and saying, hey, I'm going to take charge of things. But if you choose, and it all starts in your mind, to thrive and prosper, which is what I've chosen. It's what I'm supporting all my clients in doing. It's why I'm doing these webinars. I want entrepreneurs to realize this is an internal decision. Chaos is going on around us. None of us at this point, given that what happened in the last 2 weeks for me was like a year's worth of data compressed into 2 weeks, right? It's overwhelming for anyone. But we don't have to let that chaos be the choice that we make for our lives. We can say, chaos is going on, and we cannot reasonably predict what's going to happen 7 days from now. We don't know. We
Well,
actually don't know.
and let's talk about this
And
too,
that's okay because
it's okay.
we get to choose whether we thrive and prosper no matter what's going on around us.
Well, let's look back because you and I have a very cool story. Um, when I was diagnosed, I was told I had 90 days. And I said, okay,
And
well,
you're on the verge, my
that's not
friend. You're on the verge. You're 3 weeks away from a year.
Oh, I know. Which I totally want to make sure that you and I are on the phone that day. But I also look at the experience that you had with your doctor. And I think this can very much correlate when we're talking about showing up in love for ourselves
Right.
and recognizing that we get to decide how we want to have this
Well,
experience.
that's important. So, folks, February 5th, 2018, JV had a heart attack. And I kept thinking I wasn't having a heart attack. And then I was in denial. I have to admit that, because I didn't want to have a heart attack. But then my chest was hurting so bad that I said, "Oh, I think you're having a heart attack." And that's when I put my clothes on really quickly. And I was in a condo, and I went downstairs and I called Uber and I said, "Take me to the closest hospital." Talk about how much time went into choosing what hospital I went to. What one's close to me?
And
It was a
talk about the Uber driver. I
yes.
mean,
So
it's
it was
not
this,
like you could say, no, no, actually get out.
yeah, get out.
You're
I'm going,
driving him
just
to.
just take me there. I'm paying you, right? And it was a 7-minute drive, and it was a very, when I look back, I've actually not said it this way, Michelle, but it really was a profound spiritual moment in my life, because I became aware, kind of like I became aware last week, you've got to get out of Denver. This is not the best place for you from a health standpoint. You need to go out in the middle of nowhere where, and that's what I found. I mean, I found probably maybe the only house on Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, and I like couldn't be happier. So on that ride, I became aware that I had to make a decision, that I was either going to leave or I was going to stay. And it was almost like, I don't normally talk this way, but it was almost like angels, or, that I had guidance in this. It's like, okay, time to decide. What do you really want? And I embraced that. And on that 7-minute drive, made the decision I was going to stay. And when I went into the emergency room, fortunately, there was nobody. It was like a movie. There was nobody in line. I go up to the counter and I go, "I think I'm having a heart attack." Within 4 minutes, I had not only been on a gurney, they had finished the EKG. They looked at me and they said, "Sir, you're in the middle of a heart attack." Whisk me down the aisles like I'm in a TV show, go into this room with about 12 people putting IVs, asking me questions, all of this. And after about 4 minutes, I said, "Everybody, you got to listen to me. Here's the deal."
So wait, I want to take pause right now because I don't think I've heard this story. You called me, and this is one of the things that we were talking about, and just really, really um, talking about how important it is for the communication with your doctors, with your wellness providers,
About
that
intention,
you
about what's true for you.
what's true for you and that you truly own your wellness. And this is
Right.
what it's about. It's about you holding on to that you and your creator, you and God, you guys are in the driver's spot. You're
Right.
creating the experience that you want. And so you stopped everybody
I did.
in this room and said, "Wait a minute, hold on." And then what did you say?
I said, "I'm the guy who makes it, and everybody in this room needs to understand that that's what's going to happen here." And then the woman who was in charge of the room, the next day, she came to see me. She goes, "I just wanted to come see you and see how you're doing after the little
I
speech I
just
gave
want to
him."
say I effing bleep love you because that is what it's going to take. I want everybody to really sit into this. I mean, you get a diagnosis, stage 4 breast cancer, you have 90 days to live, and you're told you have 90 days to live. It's we have a
Or
choice
heart attack, and
or heart attack.
you might not make it upstairs to have the stent in. And they kept looking at me. They go, "Sir, time is of the essence." And I'm going, as long as everybody understands, I make it.
Right.
You got like, because if they don't
We're
understand
all
this,
on the same
we
page.
are all on the same page here, because I wanted their minds and their emotions. They whisked me upstairs. I'm in this, operating room to have a stent done, and they're doing the same thing. And they said, "We're going to give you some sedative." And I said, "Before you do that, we need to have a little talk here." And I gave them the same talk. I said, "You need to understand nothing is going wrong. The procedure is going to go completely correctly, and everything's going to be okay, because I'm supposed to be on this planet. I'm going to make it." And then they take me down to the ICU, and the nurses came in. I gave them the same little speech, and then starting the next day, Michelle, it was truly like I could write a whole book about it. All these teams of like 7, 8 doctors, and I think some of them were interns, came to see me. And then about an hour later, a whole nother group would come to see me.
They're like, we want to meet this guy.
And
Who is
so
this guy?
every time they would come
Right.
in, I kind of gave them the same talk. It's like I was giving a little speech. I go, okay, here's the deal. You do not need to worry about me at all. I'm on the planet with a big purpose, and that purpose is not yet fulfilled. Therefore, I'm going to be okay because it's the only way that I can fulfill the purpose. And then I tell them about my podcast, Conscious Millionaire. I say, you've got to listen to my podcast. Let me tell you what it's about. And then there'd be this another group come in. And after 4 days of this, which I got no sleep at all, the nurse that I gotten to know really well, she goes, JV, do you know why all these doctors are coming to see you? And actually, Michelle, I never even thought about it because it was like, it was just all of a sudden it was the circus that was going on. And I just got used to it, you know? And she says, we've never had a patient in this hospital like you. Everybody wants to come see you because it's the opposite of what's going. Like when we were supposed to walk, you know, they want to get you up and walk. I would insist that we walk twice as far. They go, so what? How you doing? I'm going. We got to keep going. We got to walk some more. And then comes in this doctor who had been assigned to me, this cardiologist who I now call a traditionalist, with this contraption and a screen, and he goes, "I want to show you your catheterization." Now it's pre-med. I was pretty interested, and he shows it to me. I go, okay, that's interesting. And then he goes, well, now I want to show you your echocardiogram, you know, showing the pictures of how the heart's beating. And he says, you see this part that's in your heart that's not moving much? And I said, yes, I noticed that, as if I were brain dead or something, right? You have me on pain meds, but I can still see it. And he goes, that's damaged. And I said, I figured that. I figured that. And then he gives me this, he looks at me, and I'm being serious because I want to be here at 100. I hope I have the cognitive ability to remember this before to my dying moment.
Well, at least we have the recording.
We have the recording, and people, maybe the nurse will replay. JV, do you remember saying this? And I go, no, I don't think I said that. But I did, folks. This is what the doctor said. At least 2 years later, I can remember the exact words. He looks at me and he goes, I'm very concerned about you. And here's the punchline. Because you're so optimistic about healing. And I looked at him and I said, that's because I plan to heal.
And I just want to take another moment because I think these are learning opportunities. Is imagine somebody telling you that
you can't heal.
You can't heal because he's concerned about your optimism.
Yeah, you're too
optimistic.
You're too optimistic as a person 4 days after a major heart attack. You shouldn't be this optimistic.
Well, and we're going to hear from Marcus Anderson, who was paralyzed from the neck down, who has so much great value to talk about adversity. And you have him on your show, and you've introduced him. I mean, fabulous. But the number one ingredient, I tell people all the time when they ask me how I got through this year, I went again 90 days to having my best year on the planet and interacting with people. And it goes back to is attitude. The number one thing is your attitude of gratitude.
Well, absolutely. And what's interesting is that I'm a lawyer, and this guy gave me a closing argument, like to give up on life. And then he goes, I'm thinking to myself, shouldn't these be reversed roles? Like, shouldn't I be forlorn and my life is destroyed? And he's the one saying, oh, don't worry, it'll be okay. You can still go.
He's comforting you.
Yeah, no, it was the opposite. He was trying to convince me not to believe I was going to be okay. And so he gives me this whole talk about how I should expect I'm going to have more heart attacks and my life's going to be really difficult now and it's never going to be the same. And I'm looking at him while he does this closing argument to try to imagine this. I'm saying to myself, one, I know this is BS and I'm not buying into it, but what about all the people on the planet that are taught that the doctor knows the right stuff and that same doctor convinces them to give up on their life, basically? You know, that you're going to have a crippled life. And I'm going, no, not me, not at all. That's not happening to me. But inside I said also, he's being nice enough to tell me he has no clue of how to heal me. But fortunately, I believe in spiritual healing. I believe in energetic healing. I believe in supplements, you know, and I went and found what I needed to heal. And folks, I then went to Orange Theory after a heart attack. And in 7 months, I prepared And I did a 10K marathon after having had a heart attack. And it was the most exhilarating experience maybe in my life because I set a pace. I never went slower. In fact, I speeded up throughout the 10K. I'd never done a 10K before, but I trained, and I finally at Orange Theory got up to where I was training 7 days a week after a heart attack, after this doctor tried to convince me. And then this year you were there for me because I went and did another echocardiogram. I did another stress test, and I didn't know what they were going to show, you know? And what they showed after 8.5 minutes on the stress test, they said, do you want to keep doing the stress test? And I thought that was a strange question to ask me, considering they were the ones administering it. So I looked at them and I said, do you want me to continue to do the stress test? I feel fine. And they said, we don't see any point because we're doing an EKG every minute and you're perfectly fine. And I said, well, then if you think I should quit, fine. And then they did the echocardiogram. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want the world putting those thought frames out into the world. But the reason the doctor was so concerned was that I was literally in heart failure. I was having an ejection rate. It's supposed to be between 55 and 65% of your blood is ejected every time it pumps. And I was ejecting 38%, which was predicting I was actually going to die. But I was determined that wasn't true. And now my ejection rate is 55 to 60. It's perfectly normal when my heart wasn't supposed to heal. I can do marathons. And it's really, folks, this is exactly what's going on right now with the coronavirus, with the economy that's messed up. It's your decision. Do you want to implode and go into panic and fear? Do you want to just be average and just survive? Or is this the moment you say, not me, folks, this isn't taking me down. I have a choice. I want to thrive and I want to prosper. And that's the life I choose, because that really is the difference between what you get. And that's why you're doing well. And it's why I recovered from a heart attack that I wasn't supposed to recover from.
I think if we learn one thing out of this in owning your wellness, it's this fact is that you truly get to go in and make that decision of how you want to have that experience. And it's interesting because there's been times where I'll feel pain and I'll sit down, I'll calm down, and I focus on being present. And that's when the pain goes away. I mean, it's really interesting is that we are training an entire country to focus on being present and to focus on what it is that are their needs and how they can, check themselves before they wreck themselves with their attitude. The dominant thought, and this is what I'm hearing from you, is very much the dominant thought wins a lot of times if we allow it. Or we can choose to show up in love. And you do have two choices. It's either love or fear. And when we're in fear, that flight and fright, we are not creative beings. We are in survivor mode versus thriving mode. And that's what I love about you is that you didn't wait for somebody to say this to you. You didn't wait for a doctor to indicate to you what you took the ball into your own hands.
Well, and I want to point something out, because at this moment, I just feel really called to uplift. Millions of, that's what I'm doing with my my podcast. Every other week, we're doing a coronavirus special. Every Saturday, I'm doing a mindset to how you can thrive and prosper during these times, that it's a choice. I want people to know, let's go back to that Uber ride. And in 7 minutes, it was just clear to me, you must make a decision. Are you staying or are you leaving? And I was very clear, leaving wasn't like...
Talk about that, though, is leaving the planet.
Yeah, leaving.
You're not talking about leaving the hospital.
No.
It's the planet.
It's the planet, right? In this particular body, let's just be clear. That, folks, is dying. And I was very clear what I was saying, but that's how it kind of came to me. And then once I made my decision, I think this is the big difference between success and mediocrity. You must be 100% committed. Because the moment I made that decision, when I walked in that hospital, I was a guy who was walking out, right? When I went up to the emergency room, window, I just looked at her and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. They called some code, I don't remember what it was, over the microphone, and they rushed out, put me on a gurney, and like, I'm talking 4 minutes, the EKG was done from the moment I walked in that emergency room. And, so you kind of look at how that intention and that clarity in my mind translated into all those experiences around me. I don't think it's accidental it all happened so quickly. I think that synchronicity was abounding because all the elements kept coming together. Because when you announce to the universe what that intention is that you are 100% behind, it's not like I'm interested in thriving and prospering this year, or maybe it could happen, but maybe not. I don't know. That's not committed. I'm talking, you want to be thriving and prospering at the end of this year when lots of people are out of business, lots of people are sick, lots of people, are living in tragedy or drama. You have a choice, but it is one of 100% decision and 100% commitment. And then you only take the actions that are going to take you in that direction. That's what I want for every entrepreneur on this planet, because together we can innovate. We can come up with new solutions for the new economy. Because, folks, this is not over in a month or two. This is an 18-month journey. And the new innovations we come up with to how do we have conferences, but we don't go anyplace. We stay in our home for the conference, right? What's going to happen, I go, it's just like the Apple phone. Whether you have an Android or an Apple, it really doesn't matter because the Androids wouldn't have come without the Apple. There's before the Apple iPhone, and then there's after the iPhone. Our lives are forever different because the iPhone came along. In the next 18 months, entrepreneurs, there's more millionaires made, more success created in tragic times, in recessions, in depressions, than there ever is when everything's going well. So you go back to January and February, it's not that long ago. We're in a super bull market, 11 years, long bull market, and then poof, everything rug out from underneath you, right? But you're the one who decides, am I going to be one of those entrepreneurs who's going to find some new solutions for my clients, maybe even find new clients? You go, everything is in change. But you get to choose, is it positive change or is it negative change? That's a decision you get to make. Nobody else gets to make that for you. It doesn't matter what happens in the markets. It doesn't matter if you're locked in your home and you can't leave for 30 days. No, that's just noise. That's just noise. The truth is you get to decide. And this is the moment in which people who truly want to thrive, truly want to make a difference on the planet are called to step it up like we have never stepped it up before. And we're collectively and individually are going to create solutions that didn't happen. And then the world is never going back. The world is never going back to what it was.
And maybe nor do we want to. I mean,
No.
think about how, and that's why I love your approach. I love your passion. It's why you and I are dear, dear friends. But a couple of different things that we talked about before, and one of which is joining geniuses, is being able to join these geniuses together, because when we come together, that's when the magic gets created, and we're these spokes in each of the wheels. And I feel like when we get together and we pull in these other geniuses that are out there and we start creating shared experiences of what's working.
That's so critical, Michelle. And I'll tell you how I'm doing that principle. In the 3 weeks ago, I made a new joint venture deal with a guy who has geniuses and I have geniuses. We put them together and we're going to trial it for 3 months. And then if we like it, we're going to incorporate a new company. That's coming out of this. Monday last week, I made another joint venture deal with another person I know. I go, I'm really good at this. You're really good at that. How can we put it together and do something together?
That's why I think the beauty is, though, is it's together. And we are recognizing that we can come in. It's the same thing I talk about with business partners that I've had, and partnering with you on being able to roll out a podcast, specifically with the Real Share, and getting your help. When we try to do everything, we're scrambling and it's lonely. It's not as
It's
fun.
not only lonely, but at this moment in time, we need to focus on our genius and nothing else. And if two people own part of the pie can get a lot bigger faster.
Right.
And that's what I want you to hear from me is that you need to figure out, how do I partner? How do I look at my business totally differently? But if you take a solo journey, wrong time, wrong moment for a solo journey. Look at the ways you can partner with people, do affiliate relationships, do joint ventures, find ways that you can partner with people that have a genius. You have a genius. You each take a part of the pie. It doesn't have to be equal. It depends on who's doing what, but you're going to have a lot more success very quickly by doing that. And it's amazing. People are reaching out to me now. Hey, can we do this? Hey, can we
What
do
about
that?
people who don't know their genius? What do you say to
Yeah.
people? I know Rose Tafoya is on here. We can, when we go into Q&A, talk about that. But I just had someone say this because I say that a lot, joining geniuses and shared experiences. And they said to me, they go, Michelle, I don't know my genius.
I think it's such a big question. I help people discover that, but let's do a hack, right? I want people to be able to tonight. I want you to have a sense of your genius. We don't have to go through an elaborate process. Just ask yourself this simple question. If there was only one thing I could do with clients, I'm going to talk like you're an entrepreneur because that's the world I live in. If there's only one thing I could do with clients for the rest of my life, what would bring me the most joy? Me the most joy. Because I find that the emotion of joy is always connected to our deeper core and the truth of who we are. When we get to joy, we are in the moment that is right for us. So it's way beyond I just want to be happy or I want to have a pleasant, feeling. Joy to me is the deepest, most profound experience we can have in terms of understanding who we are. When we get to joy, that's our genius. Because you never have joy with stuff you don't like to do. That's just, or stuff you're not good at. You don't
Well,
think about it. You never have joy with that.
and let's tailor that back over to healing.
Yes.
It's interesting because that's one of the things besides attitude, and being grateful, is one of those first underlining pieces, but also the comment that I had to me and to you as well is we only need to be doing what's bringing joy into our life,
Yes.
because that's when we do heal. And when we're
Well,
not,
and let's go to my decision this weekend. Last week I was contacting different people, looking at things. A couple of them I went and looked at in person, and I go, no, I just go, not where I'm supposed to be. But when I saw this particular picture online, I went, yep, that's the place. That's where I'm supposed to be. And I immediately started feeling joy to go, yep, and today I said, if I'm here for 3 or 4 months in the same place, great. Right now, I only have it for 6 weeks because it's quote unquote not available after that. Folks, so much is going to happen in the next 6 weeks. If the
right.
people, if I'm supposed to be here, the people who are coming aren't coming, and maybe it won't even be legal for them to come. We don't know what's going on in 6 weeks. But if I'm supposed to be someplace else, then it will be. Here I am in Colorado, folks. In case you don't know the geography, Wyoming is north of us, and there is nobody in Wyoming. And I said to myself, well, this is good for now, but maybe because my business is virtual. All of us, work that way. So we don't have to go home from an office. We already created it that way. And I'm going, maybe I'm headed to Wyoming for part of the summer. Maybe that's where I'm going to go ahead and hang out. I don't know. And so I said, why don't you just take this? And I'm saying this so that you're here. I say this in almost I'm 6 days a week I do my podcast, and almost 6 days a week I go, there's no accident you're listening to this episode. You were attracted to it on some level, and you're supposed to hear this information. So think of it as seeds that you're going to use to lever yourself up and take your next step. So if I'm supposed to be in Wyoming, then the person that I'm going to meet that might live a mile from me, who knows, whatever, I'm supposed to meet them. And if I didn't go to Wyoming, I wasn't going to meet them. So
Right.
I said, this is, as long as I'm taking care of myself, keeping myself safe on a health level, then I know a lot about adventure because that's how I tend to live my life. And I said, you just started a whole new adventure. And it's kind of exciting already because I have no clue where I'm going to be living in 6 weeks. I just know that I'm going to, for 3 to 4 months, I'm staying out of the heart of a metro area because I don't think it, for me, in my health conditions, I don't think it's the right place for me to be. And I go, so this is going to be interesting. Who am I going to meet? What's going to happen? Who's going to come to my webinars that I'm doing, my Facebook Lives that I'm now starting once a week? Who's going to be there that I otherwise wouldn't have been doing those because they're on the topics of how to reinvent your business? Who am I going to meet?
Right.
Who
So
am I, what's going to happen?
On that same note, and that goes right into this next piece and this next portion, because we've got so many people that want to ask you questions that are actually on this podcast. And if you haven't put any of your questions together, let's go right ahead. But I'm going to just go back over to this. And one of the things that I love when you and I talk is we talk about how you are responsible for you. You get to own your wellness. You get to make decisions.
Right.
Think about it. When you were talking about this, what comes to me is we get the opportunity to be in this body, in this earth suit with this soul. That counts for something. Out of 8 billion people, you are the one that's making the decisions on what brings you joy. Nobody else can figure out what brings JV joy but JV.
Right. And in many ways, I want to take that just one more level. In many ways, I'm not even deciding what brings me joy. It's just my spiritual, physical, mental, emotional DNA of how I'm designed and who I am, and my purpose intermixed with all of that guides me. And the joy tells me the path. As opposed to me choosing the path, I didn't choose to be, although I chose to act on it, that's the part I chose. But I didn't choose this specific house in this particular location on thousands of acres around me that I can go hiking on and feel totally safe and be out in nature and meditate. I think it chose me as much. And then I simply said, yes. It's kind of like, it's kind of like Conscious Millionaire when it came to me. It's the first 8 pages of my book. And it came to me as a revelation. And I saw Conscious Millionaire in my forehead and got a tingling in my spine. And for 3 years, folks, I had been going out and doing, retreats because I'd sold my companies and I knew I was supposed to be doing something else. But, I kept going, universe, would you just tell me? Would you just tell me I'm ready? And the universe kind of going, no, not ready yet, but we'll let you know when it's time. And that day, that evening, I'm in a hot tub and I get Conscious Millionaire, right? It's the same thing as go leave the city. It's the same experience, right? And I said to myself, between the hot tub and the computer where I took consciousmillionaire.com online, right? Because it was waiting for me. I said, this is my assignment. And I'm saying yes. And I think that really is the best metaphor for this moment in time that we are at, because we as entrepreneurs on this planet, we as human beings on this planet, if we open ourselves to receive inspiration, what is the next step for me to take? What is it that I can do to contribute to the greater good when the greater good needs me and my particular talents that I have been developing throughout all of my life for this particular moment in time to be called forth to make a difference in the world? That's our opportunity. That is our absolute opportunity. And that is an honor for each of us as a human being to have been nurtured and in subtle ways or not so subtle ways. Sometimes the Mack truck comes and guided to where we are at this moment. It is not an accident that the exact people who are listening and on this Facebook Live are here at this moment. It's not an accident that you and I know each other and that this is the exact moment. Like I had in my calendar, we were doing this tomorrow, and fortunately you called me 9 minutes before we were starting. Go, hey JV, we're going to be on the. I'm going, and I was about to walk out in nature.
Really?
And I wasn't going to take my phone with me because I said, what do I need my phone in nature for? And I said, so of course I had the time available.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going, it's today. It's today. Okay.
And here we've got, and so for folks, so how I want to be able to go ahead, and there's no accidents, and I'm a firm believer. And I think that the experience that you went on for the last few years with your healing journey got you to the point where you can help others show up in love and not fear. And truly, it doesn't need to be a struggle. It actually
No.
could be like you and I feel. I mean, and I know the answer to this question because we've talked about this before, but I would not trade my last year and the experience that I had for anything. It truly got me to a place of having joy in my life.
Yes,
So
it taught both of us.
it
So
really did. So
how can we help people who are here today?
yeah, so I want to go ahead and a couple different questions. We have Annie who actually shared, and I want to go ahead and Annie, we can bring you on line, or I can share your question, your share your response. Let's go ahead and I'm going to unmute you. Oh, actually, okay. All right, I'm going to do Annie.
Hi.
Hello there. So 1 minute, Annie, share with us the questions that you had, and you had a similar experience 2 weeks ago. We had major surgery. So I just want you to share with our audience. When we know more, we do better.
Okay, it was fascinating because two weeks ago I had major surgery. And I will tell you the preparation before, after, and during the surgery. Before, I had someone come in who I knew was extraordinary, and he had a didgeridoo session on me. So all my cells were just like, bubbling by the time I got to the surgery the next day. I had Dr. Joe's co-heal, do a co-heal while I was in surgery.
Well, and I mean, you and I met there at
Yes.
Dr. Joe's event, and JV, I was telling him about my experience, and he got after it right away with
Oh,
Joe Dispenza's meditation.
oh my God, yes. It was so amazing because when I came out of the surgery, the same thing happened. The nurses came in and they said, how you doing? And I said, I'm great. And, I was like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And they actually brought in 3 similar machines to take my pulse and everything, because I kept on saying, oh, I think there's something wrong with this machine. Oh, I think there's something, and there wasn't anything wrong with it. It was just not indicating that I was this crazy and wild thing. I was calm and cool, and they're expecting me to sort of be, like, you know, out of surgery, like most people are, like, oh, like this, right? So I really do think that this whole wellness and healing and understanding of this great attitude, great perspective of how you go in and how you deal with this latest, crisis we are in. I mean, today I was dancing around my kitchen because I thought, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, and because
Well, I love it, Annie. I love it. In fact, and that makes me feel super, super happy. JV, any comment? And then we're also going to next bring on Rose, and we've got so many folks that are joining in. So awesome comments. Thank you.
Yeah, Annie, what I think is wonderful is your attitude, because I think your attitude has so much to do with your healing.
Yeah.
I mean, we can put medications in ourselves, and and the medications are doing one piece of the work, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're there for. But it's the attitude. When I left the hospital and then I found the functional medicine cardiologist, which turns out it's kind of rare. There's only 1 in 4 million people here in Denver. And he said, well, what your doctor in the hospital was telling you was the expected outcome for somebody with your, severity of a heart attack, that they aren't supposed to do well. And he
Yes.
says 90% of the people who have a heart attack like yours change nothing. He says, but with your attitude, you're going to do incredibly well. And that was the important thing. It was the attitude, not that I was taking different medication, not anything else, but I had simply decided I was going to do well. And it sounds like you have too. And I want to congratulate you.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, that's when I was listening to you, I went, yes, absolutely, because I think that's the best way to go in. And I am also grateful because 2 days later, everything shut down. So
Yes. Well, that is the
Really good timing.
miraculous synchronicity of timing and listening to
Yeah.
your intuition of when to go do stuff.
yeah. And then, of course, meeting this this gorgeous goddess that we have in front of us was also way too much fun. So thanks for doing this, honey. Nice to see your face.
Well, and thank you for helping put together the Dr. Joe Dispenza event, that we were planning. This is really an accumulation of the past year's work. And that's why we were able to go live and have everything set up so quickly, is because we were already on this journey. So I really appreciate the work and, a couple late nights putting stuff together. So thank you.
We'll look forward to all that's going to come to be, eh?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. All right. So Rose Tafoya is in the house.
Okay. Hello.
Hey,
Hello,
Rose.
how are you?
I'm great. Oh my God, I am so loving this, JV.
Thank you so much.
You are like a soul brother. I mean, everything that's coming out of your mouth, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And I think that, I think I want to just share that your attitude is so uplifting, especially during the times that we're all going through. And I think that your power is that inspiration you're giving to us as entrepreneurs. We know once we set an intention on something and we give it attention, we're going to be okay. There'll be no tension. And I just basically gave you the passion test formula, which when we were asking on this call, what's your genius? We all have genius. So finding out what that is through your passions, your purpose, and then going for it is amazing. And so I love everything that you're doing. And I think that all that you're sharing for entrepreneurs, especially that are kind of in a place of, what do I do? Oh my gosh, things are canceled. Projects have stopped.
Well, what's so great about all those canceled things is that it opened up the space for all the new stuff that's coming. Right? It's like all of a sudden, the next 2 months of my life are really different than what they were. I was talking to somebody today and I said, oh, well, we've got a lot of time. We could schedule this. I don't have any plans for the next two months other than meeting with my clients.
My schedule just opened up.
My schedule opened up. And Rose,
not physically.
Physically, it didn't open up unless you want to be 6 feet away, and then I'm as open as can be, right? But we were going to talk about, I'm doing a webinar on Wednesday. It's just for entrepreneurs, exactly what I was talking about, because I want entrepreneurs to be empowered. I'm feeling just called. It started like a week ago. Like, you were supposed to be working with all these entrepreneurs that you haven't been working with before, and you're the one who can empower them and give them new structures to redo their business models, because that offer that worked 3 weeks ago is not going to work today in the same way. It just isn't. So,
we're excited to have you part of the shows ongoing. I've got a few of my wellness providers, some doctors that are going to be jumping in from time to time, because we are doing the 5 to Thrive. So career, physical, financial, social, and community. And I'd love for you to be a part of career, definitely, and talk about entrepreneurship and with women. I mean, there's some folks that are on this call right now. Denise Kennedy, who showed up, Michelle, Donna Lee. I mean, just some phenomenal entrepreneurs, and also mama bears. And you're speaking to this audience. And I think, again, if we can go in with this mindset of playing to our strength and playing to our genius. And, Rose was on the show last week and did a tremendous job as talking about the virus and how you can go ahead and keep your company safe. So I would love to have Rose, be on your show to talk to your entrepreneurs. And so this is what it's really about, is just sharing is wisdom. It's the real share at work. It's why I'm on the planet right now. Had I not,
made a decision.
Well, I made a decision. You're absolutely right. I made a decision, and the decision was to treat myself like somebody I'm responsible for. Because I think a lot of times what happens is we focus so much on others that we forget to really, really practice that self-love. And so that first piece is an absolute. And then that second piece is, again, playing to your strength. How can we be spokes in a wheel? How can we go ahead and really pull people in who have expertise in entrepreneurship? You're who I call, when I want information specifically about starting my podcast. You're the first person. You're the first person I called.
So I just want to give you the web address if you'd like to attend. It's Wednesday. It's Prosper 2020 webinar. It's Prosper 2020 webinar. That'll take you to where you can just put in your name and sign up. It's going to be on Wednesday at, since we're Pacific, I don't know where you are, but it's 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. It's absolutely free. I'm going to take you through processes, tell you exactly what you need to master and what you need to change, because I don't want to see entrepreneurs. We're the ones, to be blunt, who are going to save this situation. That's really, and we're the ones who are going to help people in this difficult time. That's what entrepreneurs do. We're the ones who are going to create the new solutions for problems that people have, and they need them solved. And that's what we're here for.
We're strong in perseverance. We've had a lot of experience in that regard.
Yeah, we have had a tremendous amount of experience. And one of the things, part of my background is I have a master's in clinical psych. So that's one piece. And I worked in a closed unit in California with severely psychotic patients for a year in the closed ward. And so I studied the structure of their mind and what goes on. And I said, here's the truth about entrepreneurs. We are very, very similar to the psychotics. Here's how we're similar. We believe that something can happen for which there is absolutely no basis whatsoever in external world. Here's how we're
the true optimists.
Yeah.
Right. But here's how we're different. The psychotic person, the true psychotic person, has a delusion, and this grandiose delusion like we do, but it never happens. It doesn't actually happen. We have the grandiose delusion and we make it happen. That's what an entrepreneur does on a regular basis, is we sit around, we come up with what other people are. That's why I have not made a single friend in 15 years, folks, that is not an entrepreneur, because I finally realized they have no idea what I'm doing. The only people who know what I'm doing are other entrepreneurs, right? Because we're entertaining a reality that other people don't even understand.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to them whatsoever.
Well, and I think that is a great way to end the call is hang out with your tribe, hang out with entrepreneurs, other like-minded individuals. You guys all got, and we'll go ahead and we'll post this for JV Crum III's podcast and his live stream. JV, thanks so much. We look forward to having you on next time. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific for the Daily Huddle. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Blessings to you, everybody.
Blessings.
Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Stay healthy. Bye.